things to realize is that, I know this is going to sound really like duh, but Microsoft is a computer program. Okay, so it's running on particular sets of code that are working in the background, and it understands certain commands, right? So what I'm showing you today is particular ways in which to communicate with Microsoft Word, to tell Microsoft Word what it is that you're doing, or you need it to do, so that it can actually read your document accurately. Okay, sorry, what I did there. There you go. Right. So if you tell Microsoft Word something that's not correct and it does something funny that you're not expecting, it's probably been given an incorrect command, or you haven't done something properly, or there's some hidden formatting running in the background. So one of the most useful buttons that you can get to know right now is this button over here that looks like a sort of funny kind of Cyrillic character, right? This is show and hide formatting. It's on your home screen, which is your default screen in Microsoft Word. I'm working in Microsoft Word 365. So one of the things to do is to learn what all of these marks mean, because if your document looks a little bit funny, if your formatting is not quite what you were expecting it to be, this button can be very, very useful to you. Okay, so what it's doing is it's showing you all of its formatting marks. So a little full stop dot like this means a space. So the general convention now in scholarly writing is that there's only one space, obviously one space between each word, but even after punctuation marks, now it seems to be the case that really most journals, most book publishers use one space. So that's become the convention. So if your spacing looks a little bit funny, if you've put more than one space in, but you're not sure, you can turn this button on and you can look for everywhere where there's more than one dot. So if, for example, I put 4 spaces here, there will be 4 little dots. And then I'll know that I've got too many spaces and I can delete the extra ones. Okay. This button here means a hard return. So if you hit the enter key, that's what that key is. So if you meant for there to be 2 big spaces there, then you will see 2 of those little remarks. If you didn't, then you can delete one and you only meant to have 1 there, right? This little arrow means that there's a tab. Okay, so if, for example, I was to put my cursor here and press tab, I should actually see these little marks appear. It's like a long space, basically. And then I'm trying to think if there are other sort of other things. See, I've got an extra space here. I don't know why I've got 2 spaces there. I don't need them. So you can go through and do this. The other thing that can be very, very helpful to you if you're doing sort of an overview of formatting your document is to come here to view and then to say that you want to look at multiple pages. Okay, and what Word will do is it'll do this. Now, this is not something where you actually need to see the text and read it in fine detail, because unless you have bionic eyes, you're going to struggle to read that. This is more like I've written the chapter, I've done all of the page template formatting, etc. Now I just want to check that everything looks right. So what you can do is you can scroll very slowly through the document and you can look at the spacing around your headings. You can look at where your figures are placed. You can look, see now what's going on here. Why do I have so many spaces? I shouldn't have that many spaces. So I'm going to put the cursor there and I'm actually going to delete all these extra spaces that shouldn't be there. And there you go. Now that looks right. Okay, that kind of matches the rest of the document. Now I'm going to keep scrolling, check. So this is the things you're checking for here are things like, do I have a heading that starts at the bottom of the page? That looks funny. I don't want that. So I'm going to move that heading. So say, for example, just for argument's sake, that I scrolled through the document and it looked like this, and there was text all the way down to this heading. Now, why would you have a heading at the bottom of the page? So even if it's against your page template, you'll still want to just put an extra space in there to move the heading so that it starts on the next page. So some of this, I've had students in the past say to me like, oh, this is so like nitpicky and fussy, and like, why do I have to do all of this? This is really annoying. And the one thing I say to them is that you are being assessed on the content of your argument. You are being assessed on your understanding of the field, on your reading of the field, on the depth of your understanding of the literature, on the original contribution to knowledge that you're making, on all the pieces that go into making that original contribution. That is the primary thing that you are assessed on in doing a PhD. But if you have all sorts of funny formatting, like say, for example, all of your headings are underlined, and then suddenly there's a heading that isn't underlined, that doesn't really make sense. Why isn't it underlined? Okay, if you have 3 different font styles and there's no rhyme or reason to why they're the different font styles, if you have half an image on one page and the other half on another page, and the reader has to move pages to understand what's going on, if you have 6 different heading styles with no rhyme or reason to them, that kind of stuff distracts readers. It irritates them. And then they can't focus on this lovely argument that you've made. All they can focus on is these funny little formatting mistakes that you've made, and they don't know why they're there. And so what happens is it creates what I call noise. It creates noise in the reviewer's head, the reader's head, the examiner's head. And then they're just thinking about, I'm so irritated because there's all this funny formatting and I don't really understand why it's here. And it just looks like this person has thrown this document together at the last minute and kind of gone, here, read it, I don't care. We don't want our readers to think that we don't care about this enormous piece of work that we've spent 3 or 4 or 5 years of our lives putting together, right? We want people to think that we care, because we do care deeply about our work. So paying attention to these kinds of things doesn't just make your work look professional and look organized and look like it is that, like you know what you're doing. It also says to your readers, I really care about this piece of work and you should care about it too. You should take my work seriously because I take my work seriously. So it is really important to spend some time doing these kinds of things, and they can be fiddly and it can take a lot longer than you think it can. Just don't do it 2 or 3 days before you submit. Do it like a week or more before you submit, because you do need to take time to do